In this video, I'm going to go over the positive and negative intervals on a graph. So positive and negative intervals refer to where the y values are positive versus where the y values are negative. So if you think about a graph, the y values are positive on this side of the y-axis, and the y values are negative down here on this side of the y-axis. So what is splitting up these two sides? Well, it would be the x-axis. The x-axis breaks the y-axis into its positive and negative sections. So really, when we're looking for positive and negative intervals, we're looking for where the graph is above versus below the x-axis. So starting with positive would refer to where our graph is above the x-axis. So I see a part above right here, and then I see another section above on this side. Now to actually write those intervals, I want to write them in terms of the x values. So I want to think about for what x values is the graph above the x-axis. So starting with this first section over here, even though visually we can only see that the graph starts here and goes to there, we know that graphs actually continue forever and ever in both directions. So really, this graph starts as far left as you could imagine, all the way down to negative infinity on the left side of the x-axis. So my first interval of positive, it starts at negative infinity. It starts on the furthest left this graph could ever go. And then that positive interval stops when it gets right here at this first x-intercept. And that x-intercept is at the value x equals -2. So from negative infinity to -2, this graph is positive. It is above the x-axis. Then we have our second positive interval, and it starts right here at this x-intercept. So it starts at x equals 6, and then it's positive for the rest of the graph. So this graph is going to continue to go forever and ever to the right, which for x values, as we move to the right, that goes towards positive infinity. Now, when you list multiple intervals, typically you'll see them with a U in between. That just kind of means and in mathematics. It's the symbol that means both of these are positive intervals. All right, then we've got the negative interval. So the negative interval is below the x-axis. And for this graph, we only have one negative interval. It starts at this x-intercept here at -2, and it continues to be negative until we get to this x-intercept at x equals 6. So what this interval means from -2 to 6, it means that between x equals -2 and x equals 6, our graph is below the x-axis. One thing you might notice is that when you look at the positive and negative intervals together, they always start and end at the same values. Like the first positive interval ends at -2, and the negative interval starts at -2. Then the negative interval ends at +6, and the positive interval starts at +6. That'll always happen. At that point, that's where we're switching from positive to negative. So you should always see that those numbers where it stops and starts should be the same.